All right, so we are going to have some fun with data again. And like always, I think it's more motivating and fun to bring in your own personal data into Tableau so you can play around with it. You know it really well. It's the stuff that you buy and use on a day to day basis. And there's no better example of that really than Amazon. So even though it's a little bit scary for some of us who have a large portion of their income going to Amazon, there's a lot of data over the years that we can bring in. So here is where on your Amazon account, you have your account, your orders, and order history reports. You can choose items here. There's some other data available as well, but items is what we'll focus on. It goes all the way back to January 1st, 2006. I know some of you have Amazon accounts that go prior to that, but this is all they have available in their current database. And you can go all the way to today. So you can click use today. You can name the report if you want. So it has the different times that I requested this report for, and you can go ahead and click request report, and it'll show processing here and do a countdown until it is complete and ready to download. And then you can click that download button. And then what you'll get, something like this. So have all your order dates. The title is the title of the product description. Importantly, you have category. And over the years, they have refined the category to have a whole bunch more like that. You'll have your ASIN number, your ISBN for books, your UPC code, stuff like that. That's kind of helpful when you want to compare across other retailers and things like that when you're doing that sort of thing. It has the seller, so if it's from Amazon or it's from a third-party seller, obviously a big trend over the past number of years is that shift to third-party sellers and a lot of things like that. And all right, so this is what we have in Excel. We're going to go ahead and bring that into Tableau and pop it up over here and do a new sheet. So let's check it out. Here is our dimensions and our measures. So if you watched the videos before, you know that dimensions are things we graph across, like categories, subcategories, and date. So date's one of the main dimensions you would be graphing across. And then you also have measures. And so Tableau had automatically figured out, for the most part, whether it was a string, an ABC, or a measure with the number, and then which one it was, whether a dimension or a measure. So make sure those are set up right, and you might have to convert one to another. So make sure that's good to go. But it looks like we've got city is set as geography, zip is set as geography, and date came in as a date for that, and order date. So we'll use order date. So let's go ahead and do a map. I want to start with the city of orders. So we're going to go with the shipping address city, kind of a good measure for where I am at. And I'm going to drop that into this marks bar to the detail area. And because it's geography, it automatically figures out the latitude and longitude based on that city, since it's got a database of what cities are there. And now you can see where all my orders were. So it's only giving us a dot per the city where there are orders, no matter how many there were. And what I want to do is change the size of that dot based on either a count of number of orders, or you could do it also as the amount of spend per that. So before I graph the spend, I actually noticed all these are measures, and these are all currencies. So I'm going to right click on that, go to default properties, number format, and choose currency and custom. I don't really want the decimals, since I've spent plenty of Amazon money, and whether it's 32 cents or just a flat dollar value, I'm good without the decimal. So I'm going to click OK. So those are ready to go as currency, and I'm going to bring in item total as the size of that dot. So now you can see a bulk of my spend in Seattle, and I'm also going to take that item total and drop it on the label. So it's by that dot as well. Let's make those a little bigger so you can see how obvious the difference is. And for me, money is usually green. And I'm going to add a little border to make it a little distinct as well. So there we go. We have spend by city as our first graph. So not too bad. Already got something off here. You can see the huge difference. Looks like a gift to Arcanum, Ohio. So only 50 bucks there. Maybe mom got 400 bucks in Kansas, and wow. Yeah, spend a lot on Amazon. So, but that isn't over a number of years. So that's actually a good segue to do something over time. But before we do that, this map is kind of neat with the dot, but it doesn't really give us that state view. It does give us the city view. But since we're in geography, let's go ahead and try something with a date. So let's try something new here. We're going to bring in our actual state. And drop that onto detail. Remember, we also have the geography there, so you have to double check to make sure that's good to go. So now we have every state, not just the city or zip code. It's just got us a dot for that. And now we have this automatic type here that made it a little circle, but they have a map type here in Tableau as well. So now it's lighting up every state that I've had to order in. So it depends on what you want to communicate in your presentation. This is going to give equal weight to Washington and South Carolina, even though I have probably only spent $20 on a book gift for South Carolina. So what you could do, and one of my favorite things to do, is overlay the color with a gradient based on something. So that could be the count of orders or the count of lines in your data, or it could be the money. So in this case, I think it's still all about the money. So I'm going to drop money onto color, and now you get an intensity there. And like I said before in some of our other videos, and sometimes you have the choice of a simple color here because it's that gradient, you get this ability to do different gradients. For money, you could do red to green like that. That one has gold in the middle. I think there's one with white in the middle, so 0 would be white, and red is usually in the negative and green in the positive, or black in the positive for financial things. So maybe we go for that, although it's putting the scale there. So you could change that as well if you wanted with advanced, and you could start that at 0 for center and all of that sort of thing. But let's actually just go pretty simple with green. I don't want to mess with that right now. So there you go. So the most intense is Washington with 52,000. You can go ahead and add labels to everything. So this one will show all of the labels, or you can do the min and max as well to make it a little more simple. So one thing to think about too is not overwhelming the viewer with too many numbers all over the place. And this is pretty phenomenal. So let's do spend by state. There you go. Wisconsin got $8. All right. Cool. So let's do a couple more. Let's do spend over time. So we do have our dates available up here. We've got a few dates. Order date makes sense. It could be shipping dates. Something else could be helpful as well. The default there was year. I'm going to right click on that and do continuous. And like we were using before, I'm going to bring in item total, and it already knows its currency since we set that up as the default. I kind of like those filled in area graphs so you can see it a little better. We're on that green theme. It's got a little bit of opacity. You can change that to your liking. Maybe add a little border for some definition. And so we're going to do spend by year. It looks like there's a little dip in 2018. And last year was a little high. So there you go. You could annotate that. Actually, that's a great idea. So we're going to always show over there, and you could even annotate that mark and right. 2020, ordering too much at home. So that will come up in a little box that you can drag around there. It's kind of good, especially when you're doing a story point later in Tableau and trying to tell a data story. Annotations and things like that can be super helpful. So that is our spend over time. Let's try something else too. So I mentioned sellers. So that third-party seller versus Amazon.com is the seller. That is pretty interesting to me. So we have seller as a dimension that we can draw from. And so here's a list of them. And so there's going to be a lot of different sellers. So we are going to pull in item total again. Can drop that on top of that ABC, and then sort descending. So it'll have the top one there. So obviously Amazon.com comes in with a good 36,000, and then a bunch of other smaller ones. But there's so many here, and you'll just be scrolling forever to find like some Goodwill in San Francisco that I spent $3 on. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to control click seller and drag it to filter. So it keeps it both on the row and allows me to filter by it. there's this option here for top 10. And so you could do top 10 by number of orders or top 10 by the item total. So there's a lot of other things you could do too. You can do top 15. You could do it by a different measure, but right now it makes sense. What's the total money? What are the top 10 sellers that I'm spending money with? And here you go. So we've got top 10 sellers. That's just a simple table chart. I'm going to try a couple different things here. So again, we can use that gradient color. So I'm going to take that item total, drop it onto color. And so now it looks like that. So, okay, it's a little bit lighter. I can't really see it, but it does tell us really quickly that Amazon's the highest, in addition to it obviously being first in the sort. But I want to make it really easy for my users. So I'm going to change this to square. And now it's got a good gradient of colors. We could even change that to green as well to keep with the theme of the rest of the spot there. So that is one option. Or we could duplicate this and you kind of compare that to if you want to do it as a bar chart. You could do the same thing and filter it out as well like that. And you could even do that green intensity as well. And also don't forget to clean up the different legends, clean up the different axes, and then make it look a little bit more presentable. So there you go. Let's do one more. I'm thinking category. So category is one of the greatest things you can graph as well in a lot of these e-commerce analyses, because you can see what are the trends and stuff like that. But we just want to get this in for a really simple category graph. So you can bring in that dimension up here. Here's the lists. Like I said, over the time Amazon's been here, they've really changed and refined categories and added subcategories. And different places will have different hierarchies. So maybe there's guitar and then acoustic guitar, electric guitar, 6-string guitar, and I don't know if ukulele goes under guitar or if that goes separately. And there's probably it probably is definitely separate, but will they classify it like that? And it sounds like silly stuff, but those are all very important because that kind of shapes how you're going to do analysis and what trends you see and things like that. So there is our category. Again, we can do item total. Of course, you could graph other things like tax, but that's just going to be based on the geography there. So there is null category. So I guess some stuff didn't have a category. I'm going to exclude that. That's not really helpful for me. Again, we can click category and put it in here in filter. So I did exclude null. I can also do top 10 by amount to see what my top categories are. So that's pretty good. I spent a lot of vitamins apparently, and grocery and outdoor stuff. So that sounds about right. But there you go. So one other thing we can do now that we're down to a more digestible 10 categories, I really don't like using more than 3 to 5 colors per graph, but we're going to go ahead and click category and drop that onto color just so you can see what it looks like having different categories there. So we could even click color, edit color, and choose a different palette because Tableau has these different built-in palettes. And so I chose one here. It still hasn't changed it until I click assign palette, and it adds it in here. And then you could even switch these around one at a time if you wanted to swap that out and make these different. So there you go. Click apply, and now we've got categories like that. So sales by category, and you can also try out different graphs as well. A bar chart might make sense for this. So you can do different, but that's a little bit too small. Let's go entire view and add a label there. So that's got the amount. You could also add the category name. So let's go ahead and click category and drop it onto label. So now you've got label. I like label with the hover and the item total, so that's not too bad. And if you wanted to combine one, so nutritional supplement and vitamin, to me, they're the same. So you can click that and then go for group. So I'm going to compare that to everything else. So that's one really good way to help do some of the some of the pre-information processing for the user and group things together so they can see that the weight of this category compared to the others is actually quite substantial. So yeah, all right, have fun, enjoy checking out your data, and see what kind of trends you can find.